Back on Connection here on TKO8 Television. Our guest in the studio for the first part of our program today is Vince Leist and Debbie Johnson from NARMC. Vince, good to see you.
Well,
and Debbie,
good to see
Debbie
you.
used to come in and be with us quite often when you were in your previous job at the health department, and it's good to see you. Thanks for contacting us.
Yes,
and
thank
we're going to talk
you.
about something very, very important today. Insurance. And a lot of people have it, a lot of people don't. Federal government got involved a couple of years ago in the states, and it's kind of a up in the air thing. A lot of people don't understand. Let's talk a little bit real quick, and then we want Vince to get into detail about what you're trying to do to help the community.
Yes, on February the 11th, we're going to have a sign-up event at NARMC in the first floor waiting room to get as many people, or help them get signed up for the insurance. We know it's a little bit confusing, so we're just going to try to help them.
And you've been doing this over a period of time. You've had these events over a period of time. Of course, we're getting down to the deadline. February 15th is a deadline on this thing. But it's not only personnel like yourself from NARMC, but you've also got some insurance agents helping out on this?
We do. We have two local insurance agents that are like us, just trying to assist people. So yes, they'll be there to help us on February 11th.
And why is NARMC concerned about this?
Really, it's just to help people, just a public assistance, because we know, like I say, that sometimes it's a little bit confusing, but we just want to help them sign up on that day or answer questions. If they just want to come in and ask questions, we'll be glad to answer them for them.
Let's talk about, you understand the way the federal government, you remember the Obamacare, everybody heard about that. And then the state of Arkansas, along with some other states, started a private option program, which was a little different, taking some federal money and making it more available for people who needed insurance. And that's what we want Vince to kind of get into a little bit. Vince, if you will.
Well, thank you. I think it's really important that we understand the origin of what's going on in Arkansas. And it really goes back to 2010. And in 2010, our president signed into law the Affordable Care Act. And we all know that there were certain things in that act that were going to be implemented over time. Well, one of those things that were going to be implemented were cuts in reimbursement to hospitals and doctors on the Medicare side. Well, all's well and good for a little while, but in 2012, 26 states got together and sued the federal government. It got to the level of a Supreme Court. And the purpose of this suit was to say, the federal government cannot force states to expand Medicaid. Medicaid is under the purview of state government. Well, the states won that lawsuit, but then they lost that lawsuit, and I'll tell you why. The Supreme Court stated that the Affordable Care Act was constitutional, absent the requirement for states to expand Medicaid. So now we have a situation where states are not going to be forced to expand Medicaid. Now, what was in the law in the beginning? There was a redistribution of funds. The law really stated that Medicare dollars would be pulled back into the federal government, reducing payments to doctors and hospitals, and then reintroduced into the healthcare system through the expansion of Medicaid. So money was going to be moved around to take care of some folks that were at or below the federal poverty level.
Right.
Our state chose to expand Medicaid under something called private option. Other states, 26 other ones, expanded Medicaid. The cuts to hospitals and doctors started on January 1, 2012. So in 2% increments over time, hospitals have had payments to them reduced. Now, hospitals don't make money caring for Medicare inpatients. We barely break even. Now we're losing money on those patients. In states that didn't expand Medicaid, they're taking those reductions. In our state, we're taking those reductions. But our state officials saw fit to create a plan to essentially make lemonade out of lemons. We can't change at our level what the federal plan is. The federal plan is going to say, we're going to cut over here, we'll give you the money to put back over here, but you have to start a program to make that happen. So there's the private option. Our state decided to take the federal money, buy insurance for people off the federal insurance exchange, which is another issue we could talk about. That's what's being challenged right now. So people who are at 138% of the federal poverty level, that's about $16,000 for one person, or $32,000 for a family of four, can apply through one of Debbie's events, get an insurance card, and they have nominal deductibles, nominal fees, and they may go up a little bit in the future. But let's think a little bit about what can happen if the private option goes away. the federal dollars of about $110 million flowing into our state now and paying for this insurance so that people can get care at our hospital and pay their bills will go away. In the current conditions in this county right now, there are 3,100 people signed up on the private option. Our self-pay number at the hospital, we had a self-pay percent of 9% of everyone that came to us was a self-pay patient. And what does that mean? That means a patient who came to get care who either does not have the means to pay or have to use their dollars just to survive. They're not going to pay the hospital for the care.
Right.
That number is now down to 3%, which has helped us a lot. The net of this is the dollars that are taken away in Medicare and reintroduced through Medicaid in private options form will not make up the difference. We'll still lose money, but I'd rather lose less than a lot. So there was a lot of rhetoric about let's get rid of Obamacare. Well, Obamacare is not a state plan. The private option is a state plan. Mm-hmm. And in my assumption, and I think many others, the private option is the best our state representatives could do with what they were given to deal with.
Right.
So what they did was they created a plan to protect hospitals, to protect doctors, and to protect people who had no means for insurance. So is it perfect? No. Would it be a whole lot worse if the private option went away? Yes. I hope that people can process the facts that the private option is a program that was created to help Arkansas deal with what Obamacare presented in both a functional, regulatory, and a financial manner. I think they did a darn good job, and our hospital is going to be safer if the private option or some form of private option stays in place. And I'm confident that folks who really see this picture will understand that we need to keep it around.
Well, not only that, the people that were out there that did not have any insurance, as you're talking about, that came into their facility or would go to a doctor's office or might not go to a doctor's office. That's probably even the worst case scenario. They weren't going because they knew they didn't have their own, they had no expendable income and they had no insurance.
Well, I can tell you the only outlet for people who have no income and no insurance who are sick is our emergency room.
Right.
And by federal law, we are required to stabilize and treat an emergency without regard for a means to pay. We can't even ask. So that fact remains. But there are a lot of folks who have previously used our emergency room as their primary care doctor who now have this insurance card. And now they're going to see their primary care doctor and getting their chronic conditions or acute conditions cared for.
They're getting preventive care, hopefully now, care, rather than emergency care through your facility.
And much less expensive care.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So all in all, I guess the message I wanted to send to the folks and you today is that we need to create a little bit of a barrier between what people call Obamacare, because that's the Affordable Care Act, mm-hmm. and the private option. Because the Affordable Care Act is going to go on until our elected federal officials do something with it.
Sure.
And we've got to have a plan here in Arkansas to deal with the scenario, the conditions that are placed on Arkansas, and that is the private option, or something like it. And I have a lot of confidence in the folks that are in Little Rock right now, that they're going to study this carefully, and that they're going to respond to protect the 218,000 people across the state that are signed up, the many hospitals and doctors, hospitals in particular that are running on a razor's edge. There are many critical access hospitals in our state that are running on a razor's edge or losing money. If the private option went away right now with the Medicare cuts as we see them today, there will be hospitals in the state of Arkansas that would fail. Ours is fine. Ours will remain fine. But the point is, we'll be much better off and able to really develop programs and care for folks here if something similar to or the private option remains.
Well, and that's really where people out in the viewing audience and in the public, and we're not going to get into politics here today, but right. that's where people need to talk to their state representatives and Congress people and help them understand that community hospitals like NARMC and all of the community hospitals in the state of Arkansas need to exist. The only way they can exist is through funding. The only way they get funding is very few ways, and it's either from bond issues, tax money locally, or they got to continue to share in what the cards we were dealt by the federal government.
Well, the hospital really has two important jobs here. One, to provide a high level of care and take care of our folks. But two, we employ about 800 people.
Yes.
And if something would happen to this hospital, we put about $32 million in salary dollars into this market annually. Harrison would look differently if it wasn't there.
Listen, guys, we've run out of time, and I really want to spend more time. I'd like to have Vince, if you would come back again.
Absolutely.
In the very near future. Let's maybe take the 30-minute show entirety, and let's kind of go through, maybe even throw some slides in and maybe a little bit more, and just kind of dedicate it to this. But you hit the highlights today. We appreciate it, and certainly we wanted to mention again one more time the date.
Yes, Wednesday, February 11th from 10 to 6 at the first floor waiting room.
Over at NARMC. So if you don't have insurance, or if you've got insurance, you've got questions, a great place to go. It's free of charge. It's a service by NARMC, and some of the local insurance agents will be there to answer your questions. So if you see anybody out there that's a little bit confused, this would be a good time to get them over their way. Vince, good to see you again. Thank you. As always, thank you, and we appreciate NARMC.
Thank you.
Stay with us. Be back in a moment for the second half of our show with a young lady from North Arkansas College on Connection.